Okay, good afternoon everyone. This is for my class in CVN or Chameleon Values and Norms, which is intended not only for Block A but even for Block B. No? So today we are already about to finish off with Unit 1 or the concept of values. After this meeting, we will go directly to Unit 2, which is the concept of norms. We're almost through with Unit 1 or Chapter 1, and after this lecture, you proceed immediately in reading the concept of norms. Now, may I remind you again that the activity sheet for Unit 1, which you can find it in or on page 14 up to page 16. You do not have to do that just yet. I will tell you the proper time or the appropriate time when the same will have to be accomplished or done. No? So I want you to leave the activity sheet first. You proceed in reading Unit 2 or Chapter 2 on the concept of norms. Okay? So this is the last part of Unit 1, and I'm talking about the sources of values. Of course, when we talk of values, they are developed during our formative years, and usually the sources of values, the first sources of values would be our family, right? Or later on, when we go out of our domicile, then we meet some friends. They are also sources of values. Even the first time that we attend school, of course, the school as well as the teacher are also dominant sources of values. But let us take them one by one. As I told you earlier, these values did not come up instantly. They are developed through the lapse of time by our constant association or relationship with our fellow men, with certain institutions, or with certain materials which we usually read or do. Okay? So the first, as I told you earlier, the first source of value will be the family. Of course, when we talk of the family, we talk about the immediate members of our family. Our father, our mother, our siblings, and all those who are in our household. They are the first ones who taught us the meaning of the essence of life, or why do we have to have our life goals, or why do we have to have our set of values, because these are motivational factors which will impel us to attain our life goals. So the family is a great source of values during our formative years, during our first years on earth. Of course, the mother as well as the father will have their set of values, and they are the ones who usually impose upon us certain restrictions or limitations that we cannot do. But there are also certain things or undertakings which they will tell us to do. The do's and don'ts in life are the things that we first learn when we were young, when we are in our family gatherings. Okay? The second would be friends and your peers, or barkada that we call. No? Friends and peers are also very, very influential in bringing about the formation of our values. Once we get out of our houses, definitely the first things or the first people whom we enjoy their company with will be our peers, will be our friends. No? So why do we associate ourselves with friends? Well, because of mutual interest, because of mutual respect, because of mutual hobbies perhaps, or mutual needs. No? So we go out with them because we believe that we become happier, we become comfortable, we entrust ourselves with them because we believe that they are the ones who could also help us in attaining our life goals. No? So we enjoy the company of friends and peers, and that is exactly why when we reach or when we attain the age of maturity or even our adolescence, what we do is of course to seek the company of our friends because we believe that they are the ones who could also help us in one way or another enjoy what life would bring. No? The third would be our community or society. When we speak of getting our values in community or society, it is the things that we see around. No? It is part of the culture of our community or our society. Say for instance, here in Manaoag, we could see that people are quite religious. No, they go to church, they attend spiritual gatherings of all sorts. So we could see them that part of their culture will be to engage in religious activities, and those things, because these things are part of our society or within our group, then we also follow, we also observe, because by observing them, we become no, we become a part of a larger group. No, we do not just confine ourselves with the things or the people around our home. We need to go out, being social animals like that. No, and the first thing that comes to mind would of course would be to associate ourselves with people in our society, people in our community, people who would more or less share the same sentiments or interests that we have. Okay? The next would be your school. The school. The school is a great source also of values. Uh, the first things that we learn about, say for instance, about honesty, not to cheat during examinations, are learned at home. No, these are the values that our teachers or the school inculcate in us because they are important later on of who we are and what we would become. No, honesty, cheating is not allowed, and that lying is also bad. No, that's honesty. And then another one is to be independent in all our ways. That's why our teacher allows us to do the things on our own, do our assignments on our own, or even the teacher allows us to study on our own because what they are developing in us would be independent living. No? That someday, somehow, when we grow old or when we grow up, no, and be on our own, definitely we do not need the help of others anymore. And that is one of the reasons why they would like us to develop early in life to become more independent. So the school is also a great source. Media. Media is another source, no? Especially now that media is very pervasive in every aspect of human life, no? So when we speak of media, we talk about print media. Print media would be the newspapers or reading materials or periodicals or whatever printed material there is. No? That's print media. And then we also have broadcast media. Of course, the television is already a great source ever since of our values. No? The shows that we see on TV are also replete with values, no? Especially this mga teleserye that we call, no? We always hate people who are the villains in the story. So because of our constant watching of television shows, we pick up certain things that are good and then we discard those that are bad, and that in a way is already an evaluation and understanding of the values that are involved. No? So the teleseries that you see on TV or are also very good sources of values. No? And then of course we have if we have broadcast media, we also have that digital media. No? You could see a lot of values being posted on FB or even in the YouTube. No? So nowadays, most people, if not about 98 or 90%, are already entangled with the use of digital media. So it is very handy nowadays to have a cell phone, and the moment you just click that and you want to see something that is beneficial to you or good to you, then you could just go to the YouTube, or you could just consult the Google, and you see a lot of information there that may be also good sources of values. No? So these are the things that media could also contribute in the formation of your values. The next would be your relatives. Well, your relatives, especially those who are immediate members, like your cousins, um, say for instance, your grandparents, or even your uncles and aunties. These are relatives who could more or less give you also, you could also give you a set of values which you later on will imbibe in your life. No? So relatives, especially those who are who have been enmeshed with so many experiences in the past, they could also be a great source of values, because they could advise you properly on the proper thing to do, especially when you are confronted with your problem or problems, as the case may be. The solutions may come from them because they have already undergone all this crisis in life, or they have already devised certain method or certain ways by which you could easily solve the problem. So relatives could also be a great source of values. Then we have organizations and institutions. Of course, it depends on your interest. Which organization are you going to affiliate with, or which institution are you going to join? Say if you are involved in the arts, definitely you may want to join also a choir, no, or a dance troupe. And the values that you get there, of course, will be in the form of aesthetic values, but just the same, aesthetic values are also part of our value system, right? The artistry and the beauty of what we do, you also learn from certain organizations or certain institutions that you are affiliated with. So organizations and institutions are also great sources of values. Then, of course, if you are involved perhaps in civic organizations like the Rotary, like the Lions, or the certain associations like the Chameleon Family, definitely the value of charity, you may get that also from these organizations of which you are a member, because these are things that they foster in the exercise of their functions and responsibilities as civic-oriented organizations. No? And then religion. Well, religion is a fertile source of values, especially when it comes to our morals and ethical standards. No? Knowing what is right or wrong, and knowing what is evil or good, and knowing what divinity means, or spirituality we have, no, or knowing about God. Definitely these are also sources of values which you would like to imbibe or embrace in your life, no? So when we speak of religion, of course this is an encompassing source of values, no? Usually we are afraid to to violate, no, the rules, the values which our church embraces, no? Because we believe that a violation of the rules of the church will be a violation to God, no? That is as simple as saying that the values or the value system that you have in the church is very superior because when you violate something about a particular rule, you also violate the rule of the Bible or the rule of God. No? So definitely people are so afraid of violating also religious values. Then history will teach us that there is a voluminous literature of human values. No, literature would tell us that, like say for instance, what our heroes did, like what Jose Rizal did, for instance, will also be a one a good example by which we could emulate his values as a national hero, no? A national hero at that, so definitely he possesses certain values that are so admirable that we could also emulate in our lives, no? So history also teaches us certain values in one way or another, no? And of course, if you read certain books, no, books, especially those which are we call the classical novels. When you read classical novels, you will see that the values there are also aplenty. No, you could also learn from books that you read. Uh, Classical novels are also devised or written by certain authors who have been a part of the history of this world, no? So they have already experienced certain things, they have already experienced certain activities that most likely will be great sources of revenues. That's why they also write that in their novels, that's why they also write that in their books, no? And then others, when we talk of others, we talk about law and culture, no? Culture is our way of life. And of course, law are the enacted pieces of legislation which we ought to follow. Actually, both law and culture will always be a part of one society or community. The law is enacted by a legislative authority for the application of everyone in a certain community or in a certain country. So when the law says that this is what should be done, then we have to abide by it. But if the law says that this should not be done, then we also have to abide by that. And these are also sources of values, because the law will always the intention of the law will always be for the good of the greater majority, of the general welfare. The intention is always to foster social order. And when it comes to the culture, no, when it comes to culture, we talk about we talk about the rituals, we talk about the ceremonies, we talk about the traditions, we talk about beliefs. And because we are talking about beliefs or traditions, and once you violate the same, then the violation is a disdainful act which society frowns upon. So what we do is, of course, to preserve this tradition, to preserve this belief, so that we are attuned with the cultural values that our society has, no? So that ends the sources of values. And then we go to the importance of values. Well, simply, why are values important? Well, they are important because they are our guidelines, no? They are our general guidelines by which we base our actions on a daily basis, no? The actions, our conduct, our preferences, our attitudes are always linked to the values that we possess. So we cannot do away with values, because values will guide us on what to do to achieve our life goals. These are very important in our life because they guide us on what to do and what is the proper thing to do and how should we do it. These are guidelines, no? They are general guidelines that will definitely impel us to do good. And if we do good, then the ultimate goal, which is social order, is also achieved. Now there's a list of other reasons or host of other reasons cited by R.K. Mukherjee. No? He's an Indian philosopher. So I just would like you to read all these 11 reasons why values are important according to Mr. Mukherjee. So I think that is all for today. We have already finished discussing about Unit 1. So your assignment, of course, is to proceed reading Unit 2, the concept of norms. You should know what norms are. Now, I'd like you to read the technical definition of norms and also the general characteristics of norms and also the types of norms. No? So, I'd like you to read all these three. Then your assignment, which is due for submission and which you have to put in the yellow pad, is this. The date when you will date your assignment should be September 14, 2020. September 14 is today, no? 2020. Now, number one would be, you have to give me 5 specific examples of norms. No? When I say specific, you have to describe the particular act, no? Because norms are actually actions manifested through actions. So give me 5 specific examples of norms which you do on a daily basis. No? Get my point? I repeat. You have to cite or give me 5 specific norms which you do on a daily basis. Now, for every norm, I want you to give me the reason why you are doing this every day. No? I'd like you to give me, for every norm, say for instance you have cited one norm, then you also give me the reason why you have to do this norm. Okay? And then finally, after that, after giving the reason, you also have to give me what particular value is being fostered or developed by doing this norm. Okay, I repeat. So you have to give me 5 specific norms which you do on a daily basis. For every norm, I want you to give me the reason why you have to do it on a daily basis, and also the specific value that is being fostered or developed by doing this norm. Okay? Understood? So, for every example, there should be 3 answers. Okay, thank you and good afternoon. By the way, before I forget, I will not be meeting you this Wednesday, which is September 16. No, I will not be around because I will be preparing for my dissertation defense, which is slated on September 26. Then I will let you know if I will be meeting you again on Monday through our group chat. Okay, so I repeat, I will not be meeting you this Wednesday afternoon. So you just continue doing your assignment and read chapter 2 or unit 2. Then I will leave a message if I could meet you next Monday. Okay, thank you and good afternoon.